Unfortunately, I can see their biases and I know how to play to them, but everyone has bias, and I don't find that when I'm actually in these situations with these therapists that they're really giving me advice that will solve my problems. I come to them, I already know how to solve it, but I tell them what's going on and I want to see what their opinion is. And the advice they give me, actually, I know would negatively impact me. And that's because the advice should be for me to know myself. The advice should be for me to understand what I need. The advice should be for me to use tactics to work on certain behaviors. It shouldn't be that you tell me what to do. And the issue with therapy is a lot of people have gone into it with this mindset that they have such high EQ and that they're so much more empathetic, and that's why they want to be these therapists. And look, I wanted to be a therapist because I am those things. I'm very empathetic. But I don't think they understand the second piece, that you have to be reflective and check your biases, because that's not very common in society. It's not their fault, right? And so you're going into these situations. Sometimes people have savior complexes and they become a therapist. Same with doctors. I mean, it's just a part of human experience. But you have to understand yourself so that we don't fall into these situations where you are allowing people to influence you that maybe aren't best for you. You don't know that, though, unless you know yourself. There are different types of empathy. Yeah, like some people love the soundboarding type of therapist. I personally, I've been traumatized by therapists more. Like, they've compounded my trauma. So I personally like therapists online. I like the ones that you can, like, they have YouTube channels and they're discussing conceptual ideas and walking through behavior mechanisms. I like those types of therapists. I don't need to talk to them, but I want to understand my situation and I want to understand what I need to do to fix it. And so there's no bias. So basically, I identify my own issues and then I find a solution for them through my own self-serving way. Because every time I go to a therapist, number one, I have to tell you all my life fucking drama. I have to tell you everything bad that's ever happened to me so you can understand my point of view on this. And if I don't tell you that, you're going to give me the wrong advice. Because that's happened. I've only gone surface and they're like, oh, well, like, maybe you should do this. So someone's like, you should talk to your mom. That's the worst advice I've ever gotten. The first therapist I ever talked to didn't tell me that. Because it was so close to the situation, she knew that was not viable. But I shouldn't have to divulge the worst pieces of my life just so you can understand me. Like, that is re-traumatizing in itself. Like, I don't want to sit in that all the time. That's how you feel like a victim. If I'm always living in this, like, reality where, like, my mom betrayed me and, like, I'll never have a mother and, like, my life has always been so much more difficult than everybody else's, I'm not going to do things. Why would I ever succeed? Like, my situation was so bad that if I do that, I'll actually be in a gutter, right? And a lot of people push that that's what you should be doing. Those people have rumination issues. If you're ruminating all the time, that's low EQ. That's where my EQ is hindered. I ruminate a little too much. So going to therapy would actually be negative for me because I would have to ruminate for them to understand my issues. Right? A therapist is good if you don't have the background and knowledge of psychology to acquire the tools to support yourself. But with the internet, I would argue you don't need that. Do you want to go to a venting session? Use a therapist for that. But personally, I don't find value in venting, like, in that way. So I don't do that. Yeah, my rumination comes from my OCD too. And the reason, like, the therapy system's not working properly is because it's not because of, it's not like, they're not aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be very clear. I think a big piece of it is because of insurance. I think because of insurance, I think there was negative impact from it. Insurance needs a diagnosis for it to be covered by insurance. So the first time you go to a therapist, you have to get a diagnosis for it to be something that's covered by insurance. So like typically they'll do like anxiety, but that's typically why they push for such quick understanding. Like the system is not set up for therapy to be successful. It's not therapy in itself. It's the system, it's the way we work on it, it's the way we deal with it. That's why I go online, because there's benefits, but there's just not benefits within our system. I don't think it's wise to monetize issues with human behavior. I don't think it's wise to monetize pharmaceuticals for human behavior. I don't think the pharmaceutical industry should be a for-profit system. And I also don't think that therapy and the medical system should be for-profit. I think that's why our systems are broken. When you start to monetize human health and human mental health, as well as the other things that go into that, that's when you're going to start to see an increase in health issues as well as mental health issues, because the only benefit that someone has is that you keep coming back to them as recurring revenue. Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a therapist. I've always been like this. I just have a high IQ, so I just think differently. There's been periods where I haven't been in that mindset, that I've been traumatized and I've been on a thought track that I don't think I typically would take, but nobody is always 100% the same in your entire life, right? But I mean, I was asking like why people wear shoes at the age of 5, and I was like, I don't understand. If we are born to Earth, we evolve on Earth, and Earth has an electromagnetic field, why we would wear shoes. Your feet are supposed to be on the ground. And now there's science that shows that that's factual. So, like, I've thought about weird shit my whole life. The therapy system is broken. And it's not that therapy doesn't work, it's that it's monetized. The more we monetize the human experience, we are the product. We're the product for everything now. The issue with America, in my opinion, and the capitalist system that we're in, it's not capitalism in itself. It's the fact that we've allowed the capitalism to be about us and not about forming community, right? So, like, if we were actually forming community and finding ways to increase wealth and we had, like, a more stable economy, then it would make sense. But right now, what's happening is the system is forcing like hoarding of resources, which was the issue and why we entered a capitalist system, was the hoarding of resources, because we didn't have a way to distribute resources. So the benefit of the system no longer is there because we've monetized every single aspect of existence. It's greed, yeah. And it's only, a small percentage at the top. And unfortunately, they're on this slope of greed. And the more you acquire, the more greedy you become because you're not aware that you're so far removed. Greed is the facilitator for the behavior of control. To want control, you have to have a reason to want control. Why would I want to control you? Because I want your money. So my greed is the facilitator for control. Control is never just by itself. Why do I want to control you in a relationship? Because I'm insecure, right? That's why people control in a relationship. Why do I feel like I have to monitor and check in on you at all times and control you? It's because I'm insecure. That's the facilitator. I'm not personally, but like that's the example. And the big issue with that too is also that like a lot of people don't have the foresight to understand that it's not just control. Like there's behaviors that equate to consequences of behavior. So you have the main facilitator of the behavior, you have the pre-behavior, and then you have the consequence of the behavior. So the pre-behavior is the trigger for the action. So the greed is the trigger for control. And the consequence of that is the system we live in today, right? A, B, C. Why would they want control over the human mind? Because they want more, right? Like, you're not going to agree because you think that this is like an ego battle, and it's not. It's semantics. If you want to solve the problem, you need to understand what causes the behavior. Greed causes the behavior of control. Control is a behavior. It's a tool. Greed is a motivator. Propaganda is the action of control, right? It's an equation. It's math. Where is it? That's all it is. I'm a Virgo, unfortunately. It's annoying. Tell me. I'm a Virgo, Sag moon,